Hi, this is Zibby Owens, and you're listening to Totally Booked with Zibby, formerly Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. In my daily show, I interview today's latest best-selling, buzziest, or underrated authors and story creators whose work I think is worth your time. As a bookstore owner, publisher, author, and obviously podcaster, I get a comprehensive look at everything that's coming out and spend my time curating the best books so you don't have to. Stay in the know, get insider insights, and connect with guests like I do every single day. For more information, go to zibbymedia.com and follow me on Instagram at Zibby Owens. Lily King is the author of Heart the Lover. Lily is the New York Times bestselling author of 6 novels, including Euphoria and Writers and Lovers, which she was on this podcast discussing, and the story collection 5 Tuesdays in Winter. Actually, backing up, Writers and Lovers was one of my Zibby's book club picks, and this is why one of my very favorite books. And if you haven't read that, you must, and then you have to read Heart the Lover. Okay, anyway, her work has won numerous prizes and awards, including the Kirkus Prize, the New England Book Award for Fiction, the Maine Book Award for Fiction, and a Whiting Award. She lives in Portland, Maine. Welcome back to Totally Booked, Lily. Thank you for coming on to talk about Heart the Lover, a novel. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you, Zibby. It's so great to be here. This is my first interview. My first podcast, like official kind of thing.
Oh my gosh. Well, the book was so good. I cried at the end. I love the whole thing. The way you make your characters, how you craft them, they're so real. Their emotions are so real. Their families, just all of it. It's just so classic you and so good.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's really terrifying to have a book out.
Tell listeners what your book is about, please.
Well, it's really about a young woman in college who goes on a bad date with a smart guy and puts in motion, a series of events that we follow intermittently through about 30 years. And it is a big love story that does not follow the normal trajectory of a love story. And there are several loves kind of worked into it. And the nature of love, I think, in the book changes as time passes. And I do think the book is a lot about time and about the impact of these very early relationships, be it friendships or loves or even relationships with books, that has a part in it too.
Beautiful. So after Writers and Lovers, you had a collection of short stories come out. Were you working on this all along? Tell me what happened.
It's never ever straightforward with me. I want it to be, but in fact, COVID hit and I started working on a novel that was sort of a murder mystery. And I don't read murder mysteries, which was really red flag number one. I had a dead senator on the first page, and I loved that first page. And then I wrote 90 more pages, and it's kind of a town and gown situation on an island off the coast of Maine. And it was dealing with a lot of political stuff, kind of our political climate at the time, and COVID and how that was playing out. And I felt like it was, so important and impactful. And it just fizzled after 90 pages. And right about the time when I would be sitting in my little chair over there and trying to figure out the plot of this novel, I had all the characters and I had all the emotions. I just really couldn't work it all out in terms of just the murder mystery plot. And Ann Patchett sent me her book in manuscript form, Tom Lake. And I think she sent it to me because I have 2 girls and there are 3 girls in that novel. And she sort of, wanted my impressions. And I read about 6 pages of that book. And I was like, she is having fun. She is having so much fun. I am having no fun in my chair. And I literally the next day I started Heart the Lover. And I just had the date, the classroom and the date. And I didn't know how it was going to relate to Writers and Lovers. I didn't have that piece yet.
Wow. And then what happened? It just unfolded as you wrote?
And then, it's so hard. It's such a hard book to talk about because really there's so many secrets, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
there are surprises for the reader.
Yep.
My editor likes to call them Easter eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I didn't mean for there to be surprises and secrets. It just kind of happened that way. So I realized it when I took a note about the future of the book, and I wrote down the name of the person that Jordan was married to, and I was like, oh my God, really? I can't do that. That was my feeling, is I can't do that. My editor, Elizabeth, won't like that. Nobody will like that. I don't like that. And yet it was there and there was nothing I could do about it. And so I just had to kind of keep going and make it work somehow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, as you say, there are many threads of love and friendship and all of that. And you have one roommate of Jordan's pass away early on. Can I read this section? It's like page 30, so I feel like I'm not giving too much
Yes,
away.
absolutely.
Okay. And the date that she goes on is with this man, Sam, who you referenced. So a few weeks before I met Sam, a girl I knew had been killed off campus, stabbed to death, the school paper said in the only article they wrote about it. No one I knew her. Carson had gone home for the summer, and I'd cobbled together a few sublets before we moved into Pie Street together in September. In August, I ended up in Franklin Terrace for a few weeks, and so had she, this girl from Iran. She was going to be a sophomore and took summer classes during the day. I was working at High Five at night, so we didn't see each other much. I only remember a few real conversations. She told me her father had worked for the Shah, and they'd left Iran when the Shah did, 9 days after the start of the revolution when she was 9. She had the most delicate and pale skin I'd ever seen, as if a ray of sun had never touched it. She had a crush on the boy in the apartment next door. He was going to be a sophomore, too. When she told me he'd asked her out, she leapt around the apartment like a deer. She was a virgin, she told me. She'd never had a boyfriend before. We lived together for 3 weeks. I don't remember saying goodbye. She wasn't there the day I moved out. I didn't see her on campus after that. A month later, she was dead. Just stop there. And then you go on to explain how and what happened. And this particular loss reverberates throughout the book in different ways. And how she did and didn't process this loss, what it does when you have a loss that's from unconnected to other people. I feel like there's so much where we lose someone and we're part of a community and you can have that communal loss. But here it was just someone she kind of knew off on the side, but it doesn't make it any less potent. So just tell me a little bit about that.
It's interesting. There are always things in my novels that seem a little bit off to the side, and like that did not have to be in there. And we could have cut that out. And it doesn't ever really, it doesn't really kind of swerve back into the book in a big way. But I love that you see it as reverberating through it, despite that. I guess I'm always interested in showing that people can be having a good college experience, or any kind of experience, falling in love with literature. It can be a good time in their life. And yet, there are always things that are happening that we're processing, and we're always functioning on different levels with different kind of sets of emotions and disruptive, difficult, challenging things. And I really just wanted to capture the time in her life where everything is kind of separated and compartmentalized, and she kind of has to go from one world to another world to another world to another world, and she's juggling. She's a young woman juggling all these emotions and a lot of kind of sexism under everything. And this murder obviously is tied to a sort of misogyny as well. And I guess it was just my way of trying to deepen her experience. And I will also say that this really is something that happened to me, more or less. I mean, not exactly the same details, and it did seem so just kind of inserted into my college experience in this strange way that I truly never processed. And then every now and then we'll just get a wave of kind of confusion about it, and incredible sadness, and also just what happened and where is her family, and they never knew me or knew about me or anything. And just an incredible disconnection, but also a very strong connection.
I'm sorry to hear that happened to you.
Thank you.
Maybe this is a way of processing years
Yeah.
later. You know,
Yeah. I mean, so much that you have to process ends up in your books. It just happens and you don't see it coming.
well, it's like inserting like a straw in your brain and it all just comes dribbling out
Yeah,
onto
exactly.
the page. Like who knows in what order. You have to make
Yeah.
sense of it all.
Yeah.
As you say, there's a lot of talk about books in the book, as in your books in general. Normally here, there's a lot of talk about philosophy and academia and intellectual rigor discussions and all of that. How do you pick what to include? What do you want the reader to take away by their conversations?
It just sort of happens. Some of it is, definitely stuff that I studied in college or that I discovered in college in some way or another. And then some of it is stuff I stumble on while I'm writing the book and I'm like, oh, I could put that in. I could put that in. And I just sometimes it's a concept that I'm trying to get across. And so I have to figure out, okay, what can I use to get that concept across? But I was really surprised. My UK publisher made a list of all of the literature that's referenced in the book. And I would have said maybe 10 books. And the list was probably 30 or 40. It was insane, maybe even more. I didn't, I didn't mean to do that. Again, it just, I often feel like it just, I am not in control. I am not choosing. I am not, something else is happening. It's like, trying to control a dream. You really can't do it unless you get into that wonderful little half woken up phase where you can kind of manipulate it. And sometimes I can get in there, but a lot of times it's like truly unconscious and I'm just along for the ride.
I get it. All good.
Yeah.
A lot of scenes in the book take place sort of in the kitchen or in these intimate spaces and chopping something or making a chicken or whatever. And they're in these like quiet, private moments that you recreate as if we are there with you, and the slight moments and who turns and who puts what hand where, and the littlest movements have like the biggest impacts. Talk about how you did that or why you do that. Or I know a lot of these are stupid questions because how do you know how you did it? But I'm just curious about it, or just want to say like I noticed.
I remember writing as particularly that chopping scene and there's this tension and they want to communicate, but there's another person in the room that they're trying to communicate about. And so, he just taps his knife twice. And I remember thinking, no one is going to understand this. No one is going to care. And it's just so silly and so granular and micro. Why would this be in here? And yet I couldn't figure out another way to do it. And I do feel like that's the way I live. It's the way I see the little things are really important to me. And I mean, not to turn this too much into a little sob story, but my father was a terrible alcoholic. And when you have a parent who's an alcoholic, you have to pay such close attention. You have to know exactly when is the tipping point. When do you have to get out of the room? Like what gesture, what shape of the lips, what tone of voice, what shake of the head, or even like my dad used to sweat when he'd get to a certain, number of martinis. And so you have to notice all of that for self-protection. So I think, and then there was my mom who was so unhappy in that marriage and, a lot of anger. So you had to kind of navigate that too. And so I think that's where that hyper maybe sensitivity comes from, or why those things are so important to me in writing.
Thank you for sharing that. So how, aside from hypervigilance, how did you find a way to process that? At what point in your life did you like dive into it and try to make peace? Did you? Like, where are you on the whole spectrum of it?
Gosh, it's such a lifelong process. I mean, it took me so long. My best friend in high school and I both had alcoholic fathers. We never spoke of it. And I can't understand why. But it took me so long. It's not like I was thinking this is a secret. This is something I have. I just like it was that buried, and that, I mean, I knew it, but I just didn't talk about it, even to my best friend. And she didn't talk to me about her father, who apparently he was a binge drinker and he would disappear for days at a time. And I had no idea. Thought she had an incredibly happy family. Happy. I loved her parents. I was over there all the time. Anyway, I think, you know, I would, every now and then I would try to see a therapist in my adult years. And I, for a little bit, and it would be kind of a therapist who didn't charge very much money because I had no money, or it would be, a couple of things free on my insurance. And then when I had kids, that was when I was like, I have to deal with this. I am putting so much pressure on myself to be the perfect parent. And I also want this writing career. And it was a terrible tension, and I couldn't figure it out. And I finally heard about some friend who had a therapist who she loved, and I went to see her. And oh my God, she helped me so much. Just a few years, and she just really, really, really helped me with my anger and my sadness underneath the anger, and and the way I kind of made my mother perfect and my father evil, and that I kind of had to come, they both had to come together a little bit into a more realistic picture. And it really helped my writing. I mean, I was really able to write then, and slowly, I think Father of the Rain, my third book, came out of writing an autobiographical kind of sketch for her. She asked me to write like 10 pages or something about my upbringing. And really, that once I started that, I started writing that. I wrote that book pretty soon after that. And that was hugely cathartic. I mean, it just was. It just kind of put it all to rest. I was so much better after that. Also, this therapist, my parents were still alive, and my dad was very, very difficult. And I had these young kids, and I didn't really want to expose them to him and his stuff. And yet I felt guilty about it. And I felt guilty about not going up and visiting him and bringing them. And my therapist was like, do you want to go or do you not want to go? And I was like, I don't want to go. She's like, so don't go. I was like, really? I can do that? I didn't see my father for 5 years. It was the best thing I ever did. It really was. I mean, it just freed me. And so when I did see him again, I wanted to see him. And that was a huge change for me. And so I really, had to work on this authentic behavior, doing things from the heart. And I had not done that because I was always trying to just keep everybody not mad at me. That was my whole thing. So sorry, that was kind of a long-winded answer.
No, I loved it. No, thank you. I like hearing the backstory, because when you create something, obviously it has to do with all the experiences that you've had in some way, right? It all gets mixed up there. And so having that context, I think, adds an even bigger meaning to the book and helps understand a lot of the pieces even. So how did your siblings deal with the situation? In the same way, or when you were growing
differently? They are 8.5 and 7.5 years older than me. And they had a very different experience of childhood because my parents were together there, until they were 18 or 19. And my mom left my dad when I was 11. So, I went back and forth. And in a way, I feel like they got the very unhappy mother. And I got, after age 11, just this mother. I have a picture of her over here where she's just completely liberated, and so she's having her kind of second youth and lots of love affairs, and she's just free and herself. And I got all of that, and they didn't. I mean, they got it, they were in their 20s, but it wasn't quite the same. But my mother protected them from my dad's drinking, and she also really controlled my dad's drinking. He didn't want to lose her, and he was on much better behavior. But when she left him, he married somebody else who was also an alcoholic, and things went completely off the rails. So I had to deal with that every weekend. And that was bad. That was bad. But I had 3 step brothers and sisters, and I was really close with them, and that helped. And I'm trying to figure out what the original question was.
No, I had just asked how your siblings had handled.
Oh yeah,
handled it.
Yeah, and so they kind of they were mostly out of the house, and they went to boarding school, and I didn't, and so they got out pretty early. But I think it's had a huge impact on them, but in a different way. I would say in general, harder for them than me.
Wow. Well, when you have the space to write and the time, and how do you get into the headspace where you can just dive into fiction and your characters when you have the stress of your life and your own girls and all the things that are happening and illness and the world and all of that? And yet we have a relatively, not simple sounds bad, but like a slice of life story, right? Like a slice of someone's life, this little thing in the context of like the massive world. So how do you quiet all the other noise and just go right there?
Well, I really do think a room of one's own is really important. You have to have a space. Like, I shut this door, I'm in my study. It's at the top of the house, so it's hard for people to get to. They leave me alone. That is really important for me. I mean, I did work at a cafe this morning, and so sometimes I have to get out of the house. But the kind of the physical stuff, just separation. Don't try to be Jane Austen, writing on your little pad, like, in between visiting guests in the living room. That's just that's a feat that only she could really achieve. And I find you have to force it. I mean, most days you have to force yourself to do it. It doesn't come naturally. I'm really not a writer who's like, oh, I can't wait to start writing today. I have to drag my feet and make myself do it. And sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. And I really try not to get emotionally invested in whether the day went well or not. I understand it's a long game, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But there are those times. I had one yesterday. I had like a kind of a serious cardiology appointment yesterday at 1:10. And I really wanted to get there very early. I'm usually kind of a late person, and I really, 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 this is an important appointment. And I started working on this revision of an essay, and I just totally lost track of time. All morning I was like, okay. I was looking at my watch. And then I had this 15-minute period where I was just gone. And that is so beautiful. I just love those moments. And I got to the appointment with 1 minute, I was on time. I was early by 1 minute. But I looked at my watch and I was like, what just happened? Like, it just like, whoo, disappeared. I really couldn't account for it. And I love that. And I just think that is how I cope. That is how I cope with everything in my life. I wrote this book through some difficult years, which you know about because we've been in touch, and, my kids were not well, and I never thought that I would finish this book. I mean, it was so hard. And yet at the same time, I feel like it saved me. It got me through. Yeah, I had a place to go. I had a place where I could control the variables, even though I say I don't control them. It's mine. Like, I don't know. It doesn't depend on fate and the weird quirks of, what the universe wants to send you. It's just my little world. And I think I really need that.
It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. And Lily, it's so good. I mean, it is so good.
Thank you.
Maybe the hard times just added even more real emotion to it or something, because it is just oozing with the stuff of life that we all can need and relate to. And anyway, congratulations. I really loved it. It's so good. Thank you.
No, thank you so much.
Okay. Well, that's it for today. That's it. It's already half an hour. I know, it's like so fast. But yeah, congrats. And I really wanted to choose this as my book club, but you would have to come to the book club. So it's up to you if you I think it sounds like your schedule is packed, but I'll recommend it to everybody far and wide.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Okay. All right. Bye, Lily. Thank you.
Bye. Bye, Zibby. Thank
So great to
you.
meet
Take
you.
really good care.
Okay. Thank
Have
you.
a great
You
rest
too.
of the summer.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Totally Booked with Zibby, formerly Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. If you loved the show, tell a friend, leave a review, follow me on Instagram at Zibby Owens, and spread the word. Thanks so much. Oh, and buy the books.